Today is I think second day of the class for special insight. We just have recite the three principles. Look at the line number 9. Although you turn in renunciation and mind of bodhicitta, without wisdom, which realizes the ultimate reality, you cannot cut the root of the cycle existence. Therefore, strive to understand dependent arising. So that's why, we need to study the special insight, which is realize emptiness, which is realize the ultimate reality. It is synonymous. Again, so we start the new lesson today. Make sure you fully understood why we need to practice the special insight, particularly the transcendent one, not the worldly things. First, everybody happy to do meditation. Most people just do simple concentration or meditation. When you do simple meditation, it makes you calm, feel very relaxed. But it really doesn't minimize the affective emotions. Second, someone not just want to have simple mindfulness, simple meditation. They want to do more deeper level, which is, the worldly meditation. So, through 9 the mental states, finally you achieve shamatha and vipassana. The shamatha, the vipassana, which is not realized emptiness, ultimate truth, yet then it cannot eliminate the root of the samsara, root of the sufferings, but still can minimize the afflictive emotions, all the strong kind of negative thoughts. We are not just seeking simple meditation. Also, we are not just seeking, the meditation which is just able to reduce the afflictive emotions. We are seeking the vipassana and karma body or karma body special insight in order to cut the root of the samsara, cut the root of the afflictive emotions. Therefore, just have achieved the complete concentration, meditation is not just enough to cut the root of the samsara. That's why page number 107, why insight is needed. Right? Insight, vipassana is same meaning. Why we really need the insight, why we really need the special insight. As I have explained, meditative serenity has their feature of non-discursiveness, as well as it has the clarity. It is free from laxity, right? The meditative serenity has already have 3 features, which are number 1, non-discursiveness, number 2, clarity, number 3 Number 2 is clarity as well as free from laxity. Number 3, benefit. Benefits. That means when you achieve the ordinary special insight or ordinary shamatha, you already have the mind which is always you can focus on the single object for long times, as well as you can see the object very clearly. Also your mind is free from laxity. Also you have the benefit which is delight and bliss. Right? So we are not just seeking this kind of meditation. However, you should not be satisfied with just this. You should not be just, you should not be very happy with this kind of meditation. Rather, developing the wisdom that properly determines the meaning of reality, you must cultivate insight. So that means we just, imagine everybody have the special insight. We already have the shamatha, but the shamatha only realize impermanence. Or we just focus on one single object. But the shamatha haven't realized emptiness. For example, you are always looking a flower. That means you have a eyes consciousness. There's a flower. The eyes consciousness always looking at the flower as an object. The ordinary special insight, the ordinary karma body, object is like impermanence. The special insight is look like the eyes consciousness. The eye consciousness always look at the flower. Same, the ordinary special insight focus on impermanence. It is not, it is not just enough in order to cut the root of the samsara. Therefore, the special insight must realize emptiness. Number 1, you must realize. Number 2, you continuously meditate on emptiness. Clear? Okay. Then, reality, you must cultivate insight, which is the insight realize emptiness. Otherwise, since mere concentration is something Buddhists have in common, even the non-Buddhist practitioner can achieve, the ordinary shamatha, then ordinary vipassana. It is not very, unique meditation of Buddhist. It is cultivation as with the non-Buddhist path will not get rid of the seeds of the afflictions. If you only practice the common, the ordinary special insight, it can minimize, it can reduce the afflictive emotions, but it cannot get rid of the seeds. For example, when you meditate, when you practice compassion, when you meditate compassion for 3 hours, during the 3 hours, you don't have any anger. Anger fully suppressed, fully reduced, but the seeds, the root of the anger is still there. Right? So how we can get rid of the seeds of the attachment, seeds of the anger? At least when you realize emptiness, then you will get rid of the root of the samsara, which is, you can call, the wrong view. When you able to get rid of the wrong view, the rest of the affect emotion going to get it out. So there's an order. Seeds of the afflictions. Hence, it will not free you from second existence. Right? Therefore, we need to practice the particular insight, which is realize emptiness. So this is the main point why we need to practice the special insight, not just the ordinary insight. So then there's a quotation from the sutra. The king of the concentration sutra says, although worldly person cultivate concentration, they do not destroy the notion of self. Afflictions return and disturb them, as they did Udraka, who cultivate concentration in this way. Right? That means if you just practice the worldly concentration or ordinary concentration, they do not destroy the notion which is self. So before we start, the next chapter, when we say self, I, okay, self and I, keep in your mind, there's a one self is exist. For example, when you say, I am sick, I am happy, I did this and that, that time there will be two kinds of I appear to you. One I is exists, is come from the previous life to this life. It will go to next life. This I, that self is exist. But there's another I which is we experience. There's one particular I which is, remember, permanent, singleness, and partless. Independent, okay. Permanent I, singleness I, then independent I. Which I has these three, characteristics. That types I is not exist. For example, the pen is exist. Yes, the pen is here, is function, as a writing. The pen is exist. The permanent pen is not exist. The pen is exist. The singleness, the is not exist. The pen is exist. The independent pen is not exist. So when you think about the self, one self is exist, one is never exist. Then the next sentence, 108. Now they explain, this one by one, the sentence. Although worldly person cultivate concentration, mean the worldly person cultivate a concentration with features such as non-discursiveness, clarity, as explained above. Then the second line, the line they do not destroy the notion, means they despite cultivate the concentration, they cannot eliminate the conception of self. Right? That means first you really need to think, even though if you have a, even though you achieve the complete concentration, you can concentrate on something for 4, 5, 6, 7 hours. Not just able to concentrate, is very clear, you can see the objects very clearly. And the concentration is free from laxity, excitement. But the concentration, the mind, not able to realize emptiness. Therefore, it doesn't matter how long you meditate on this kind of meditation, it never eliminates the root of the affliction as well as afflictive emotions. The next, there's a question, right? What kind of meditation lead to liberation? So our achievement is not, the relaxation. Our achievement not the simple kind of, peaceful mind. Our achievement is the liberation. We wish to achieve liberation. So what kind of meditation lead to liberation? As cited earlier, that just after the next sentence, right? If you analytically discern the lack of self in phenomena, and if you cultivate that analysis in meditation, this will cause the result, attainment of nirvana. There is no peace through any other means. So it's very clear. First, you need to achieve, concentration. Then you need to do the analytical meditation. Within the meditation, you need to analyze the truth, the reality. Particularly, you need to analyze the self of phenomena. When you realize the selflessness of phenomena, the selflessness of person, then it causes to achieve or attainment of the nirvana. There's no any other, kind of means. There's no any other methods to achieve nirvana. Only the meditation which is realize emptiness. Right? That's been the first 4 lines. It explains the worldly cultivative concentration. Second is the transcendent cultivated concentration. Now we just move the next paragraph. This scripture very clearly teaches that only the wisdom of selflessness serves the root of the self-existence. Kamalashila quotes in his second stage of meditation, in order to discredit the assertion of Chinese about Hasang, then in the, I think around 8th or 9th century, there were many Chinese masters came to Tibet, and they have their own view how to achieve liberation. Particularly the Chinese abbot, his name is Hasang. So he said, in order to achieve liberation, you no need to do any meditation. You totally stop thoughts. He said, when you are able to stop your thoughts, then he said, you're going to achieve liberation or moksha. So this is a wrong view. Therefore, you must have certain knowledge of this. For even non-Buddhist sages have many good qualities, such as concentration, super knowledge. But since they do not have the view of selflessness, they cannot escape cyclic existence at all. In this way, the scripture collection of the Bodhisattva cited earlier says, right? Therefore, in order to escape second existence, in order to cut the root of samsara, we must have the view which is selflessness. For example, everybody watching a movie in the movie theater, in the film movie theater. When we watch the movie, if we don't do any analyze, when we don't analyze while we are watching at the movie, when we don't do any kind of analytical meditation, then we have a happy feeling, we have a very sadness feeling, we have a very neutral feeling. While you are watching the movie, at that moment, if you do analytical meditation, how the things appear to you? Is it exist from the the screen side, or is just coming from somewhere? Right? And you do analytical meditation while you are watching movie, and then you realize everything appear on the screen. Actually, nothing come from the screen side. Come from where? From the projector. Then, even though someday you can say something very nice, and then you realize, it's not really is there. It's not really coming from there. It's coming from the projector. That means when you look at the object, any kinds of object, when you have a sense of anger, attachment, you need to do analytical meditation. When you analyze, finally you can find nothing exists independently, nothing exists from the object side. Then that moment, all the afflict emotion going to disappear, going to reduce, going to disappear. Because you change the root of the afflict emotions. So therefore we must have the view of selflessness. One who is satisfied with mere concentration, only concentration, not understanding the reality explained in the scripture, may develop an infiltrated sense of pride, mistaking mere concentration for the path of the meditation on the profound meaning. Consequently, such as a person will not become free from second existence. It was with this in mere that I said, one who listens to other will be free from again and aging and death. That means before you realize emptiness, first you must listen the scripture, the teaching, which is explain the right understanding of selflessness, right understanding of emptiness. That means you must listen the teaching which is perfectly explain emptiness. Then you will realize emptiness, selflessness, then you will be free from aging and death. How? The realization which is realized emptiness is directly against with the wrong view. For example, you are very angry with your friend, with a friend. When you have very angry, there's no compassion towards your friend. When you meditate on compassion for a long time, when you generate compassion towards your friend for 2-3 hours, slowly the anger going to reduce. But you cannot eliminate the anger, just simply practice compassion. Right? How you can how you can eliminate the anger, then you need to think, what is the root of the anger? What is the root of the attachment, desire? Then you're going to notice, you're going to know, yes, the self, things appear to you as independent phenomena. In the reality, nothing exists independently. When you realize the emptiness of the person, emptiness of the phenomena, then the anger, attachment going to eliminate it. Therefore, you must listen the teaching which is explained emptiness. The teacher here referred to the Buddha Shakyamuni. The teacher himself explains clearly what he means. Listening to other means to hear the explanation of selflessness from the other person. Therefore, it is unquestionable that the Buddha spoke of the listening to other in order to refute the idea that you can develop the view of selflessness. Refute means you must reject. Refute. The idea means the idea which is we have. Thing exists independently, thing exists selfly. So therefore you can develop the view of selflessness from the within yourself. Without the study and reflection that go along with the listening to the excellent external spiritual guide, explain the meaning of the selflessness. That means you listen, you must do a lot of reflection about the meaning, then you can realize the selflessness. Next paragraph is very important. Generally, among all the conquerors' scriptures, there are some that explicitly teach about reality, right? Explicitly teach the reality. And even though they do not explicitly teach it, nevertheless, indirectly pound towards it. Then all the Buddha teachings actually try to explain, try to introduce emptiness. Some explain emptiness very specifically, explicitly. Some teaching not directly, indirectly still try to explain the emptiness. This means, so according to the Mahayana tradition, we believe Buddha Shakyamuni came to the world. Just one reason, which is in order to teach emptiness. Emptiness. In order to teach emptiness, he need to teach so many other things. For example, the first day when we go to school, at the beginning we learn the alphabet, A, B, C, D. So once we start to learn A, B, C, D, actually our aim is going to finish the university, right? That means whatever Buddha teach, compassion, kindness, tolerance, whatever, all the teaching, indirectly, point towards to emptiness. Because without realized emptiness, you cannot be freed from samsara. You cannot cut the root of the samsara. That's why Buddha thought it is so important to introduce emptiness to the sentient beings. That's why he taught so many different teachings. He teach me so many things. Actually, finally, he brings all sentient beings to realize emptiness. Then the darkness of confusion is not overcome until the knowledge of reality dawns. But it is overcome when the knowledge arises. Therefore, meditative serenity, one-pointedness of the mind, does not itself become pure sublime wisdom, nor does it overcome the darkness of confusion. Confusion here refers to the ignorance. Hence, there is no doubt that you must seek wisdom, you should think, I will seek the wisdom that discerns the meaning of selflessness or reality. Right? So, all these pages actually saying the simple meditation, which is good, but is not enough. It doesn't have the ability to cut the root of the samsara. It doesn't have the ability to overcome all the afflictive emotions. How we can overcome, the samsara, afflictive emotions? We can overcome when we realize emptiness, when we realize selflessness. How we can realize selflessness? That means first you must practice, the nine mental states. After you fully accomplish nine mental states, then you're going to accomplish the serenity speech insight. The spiritual insight must realize emptiness. How? You listen the teaching, scripture, which is explained emptiness correctly, perfectly. You listen. First you listen the teaching. Then you make a reflection. Third, you must do lot of meditation. Then you can realize emptiness. But we saw, hearing, thinking, and meditating. Listen, make a reflection, do meditation, then you will realize emptiness. For example, first you listen the teaching, which is teach impermanent. Third, listen very carefully about the impermanence. Then you keep, think again and again about impermanence. Again and again think the meaning. It is permanent, it is impermanent. If it is permanent, what's happened? It is permanent, what's happened? You keep think continuously again and again. Finally you thought, yes, things are impermanent. When you really think, things are impermanent, then you just focus on impermanence. Right? Listen, thinking, and meditating. So this whole pages explain how, why it is so important to realize emptiness. Then next look at then having achieved serenity, you should cultivate insight. You should think all the saying of the Bhagavan were spoken well, directly or indirectly. They all elucidate the point of reality. If I know reality, I will escape all of the, how you can read this one? Entanglement of those dogmatic views, the wrong views. Right? That means all the teaching directly or indirectly, it explains emptiness. Do you remember when we study about the 4 greatness of Lamrim? 4 greatness of Lamrim. Within the 4, 1, greatness of knowing the Buddha, easily knowing the Buddha thought, right? 4 greatness. Do you remember the 4 greatness? That means when you study Lamrim, then for you very easy to know exactly what is the Buddha thoughts. What is the motivation of the Buddha, which he come to the world, which is realize emptiness. That means, directly, indirectly, it explained, exclusive the emptiness. Just as darkness is cleared away by the dawn, meditative serenity alone does not lead to the pure sublime wisdom nor will it clear away the darkness of the obscuration. So, I explained many times, we must know the differences between afflictive emotion and obscuration. Anger, attachment, ignorance, they are not referred to the obscuration. Those are afflictive emotion. All the imprint of the attachment, desire, those refer to the obscuration. Obscure what? Obscure to the nirvana. Obscuration. Is anger is obscuration? No. Anger is afflictive emotion, not obscuration. So what is the obscuration? That means the imprint in the mind. Do you remember the example, the analogy? Garlic and smell of the garlic. All the afflictive emotions look like garlic. When you keep a garlic in a pot, in a cup, for a few days, then you just throw away the garlic. Still, you can smell, the garlic smell, right? So, obscuration is look like the garlic smell. Obscurations look like the garlic. Okay, so you should not mix up obscurations and afflictive emotions. However, if I use wisdom to meditate well on reality, I will reach pure sublime wisdom and knowledge, know the reality. That means, so the common, special insight, the object can be impermanence, can be any object, right? The uncommon, the transcendent special insight, the object must be emptiness, must be the reality. So before you reach to the transcendent special insight, you are meditating on or compassion, kindness, tolerance, impermanence, whatever. The concentration not considered as a transcendent. When your meditation mind, the meditative mind, focus on emptiness, then we can consider this is the transcendent special insight. Therefore, I will remain in the serenity and use wisdom to, pursue the reality. I will not be satisfied with the meditative serenity alone. What is this reality? Means reality, ultimately, all things are empty of true selves. That means, what is this reality? Is the ultimately all things are what? Empty of true selves. The self of person and the self of phenomena. Person here referred to the being, not only the human being. That means all phenomena can be being, can be non-being. This table is referred to phenomena. We human being refer to the person or being. This means when you have attachment, you can have attachment towards the person or you can have attachment towards the object. Right? When you have ignorance, you can have ignorance with yourself or ignorance towards other phenomena. That means there are two types of phenomena, therefore there are two types of emptiness, two types of selflessness. According to the Madhyamaka school, selflessness, emptiness, is a synonymous. Person and the self phenomena. Of all the perfections, that means we have how many perfections? 6 perfections, right? 6 perfection. within the sixth perfection, of all the perfections, it is the perfection of wisdom that knows the reality. Right? Within the six perfections or six prajnana paramitas, the wisdom perfection, right? The wisdom perfection of wisdom that knows what? That knows reality. Only, do you remember when we study, I think, the rice seedlings sutra, right? Within the six paramitas, the wisdom paramitas look like eyes. Eyes. When you have eyes, you can see things, right? Without eye, you cannot see anything. That means within the six paramitas, the wisdom paramita, it look like eye. Rest of the paramita, it look like like general body. So it is so important. You must know six paramitas are very important. Within the six, the wisdom, perfection wisdom is very important, which is knows the reality. Since you cannot know it by means of meditative stabilization or the other perfection, you should develop wisdom without mistaking mere meditative stabilization for the perfection of wisdom. That means we must practice six prajnana paramita. Within the six paramita, the perfection of wisdom is so important because only within the six, the wisdom paramita knows the emptiness. Right? Then there's a question answer between Buddha Shakyamuni and Avalokiteshvara. So you can read this one. Now the next important. Until now, we learn why we need to realize emptiness. Right? We learn why we need to realize emptiness. How we can realize emptiness. Now next, how I can realize emptiness. Until now, we learn what? Why it is so important to learn to know emptiness. Because without knowing emptiness, you cannot cut the root of the samsara. You cannot be freed from second existence. You cannot achieve liberation. You cannot achieve nirvana without realize emptiness. Clear? Okay, clear. That means simply just think, I need to realize emptiness. Without realize emptiness, I cannot be free from suffering. I cannot be free from second existence. I cannot eliminate the root of the samsara. I cannot eliminate the every emotions. Right? Just simply you think this way. Then, next, you can think, seems to me, it is important to realize emptiness. Now next question, how? Right? How I can realize emptiness? And then, relying on definitive sources. It has 4 parts. Number 1, what is the number 1? Fulfilling the insight. Number 2, classification of insight. Number 3, how to cultivate insight in meditation. Number 4, the measure of achieving insight through the meditation. Fulfilling the prerequisite of the insight. Then classification. Then how to cultivate insight in the meditation. The measurement, how I know I achieve insight, how I know I haven't achieved insight. There's a particular measure. Now, fulfilling the prerequisite of the insight. You should listen to the stainless texture system, relying on a scholar who accurately understands the key point of scripture. That means, First, you listen, the stainless teaching. How rely on a scholar who accurately understands the key point of scripture. That means all the Buddha, we have so many Buddhist teaching, many teaching taught by Buddha Shakyamuni, right? The rest of the Buddhist teaching doesn't matter, who wrote. All the teaching mainly commentary on the Buddha teaching, right? That means, for example, right now, we use the Lama Tsongkhapa teaching. The teaching is mainly written by Lama Tsongkhapa. Then he really, correctly understood the key point of the Buddha teaching, which is explain emptiness. For example, Heart Sudara. The Heart Sudara. When you read Heart Sudara, so we really don't know exact meaning. We don't know. So when you read the commentary on the Heart Sudara, therefore you bit easy to understand the meaning of the Heart Sudara. Heart Sudara. Therefore, the scholar who correctly understands the key point of the scripture and indispensable, the prerequisite of the insight into use wisdom, gain through the study, reflection, develop the knowledge of the reality. For without a decisive view of how things exist, you cannot develop insight that knows the real nature of emptiness. Also, in seeking such as a view, you must rely not on the which has professional meaning, but rather on the which is the definite meaning. That means when you wish to realize emptiness, you got two options. Some teaching explain the professional meaning. Some teaching explain the definite meaning. Okay, that means there's two types of teaching. Some teaching explain the definite meaning. Definite meaning means emptiness. Some teaching directly not explain the definite meaning. They explain what? The professional meaning. So in order to understand, in order to realize emptiness, you must rely on the definite meaning. The teaching which is explain the definite meaning, which is emptiness. Therefore, you should differentiate between the professional and the definite. The professional is the conventional truth. The definitive is the ultimate. And you should then internalize the meaning of the definite scripture, and same thing you must recognize which one is the professional teaching or professional scripture. Moreover, if you do not rely upon the treatise by authoritative Telazars commentating on the Buddha thoughts, you are like the blind person headed towards the danger without a guide. That means, first, simply you can study, the teaching which is written by Tibetan master, Chinese master, Sri Lanka. You simply study their teaching. Then through the teaching, then you can study the Sutrayana. For example, when you read Heart Sudara, you don't understand anything. Second, you must read the commentary on the Heart Sudara. Right? Without having the perfect teaching, if you still try to understand emptiness, that means you are look like the blind person, headed towards the danger without guide. Therefore, we really need, the perfect teaching, which is, taught by Buddha Shakyamuni or other master. We need the right teaching. That means when you have a right teaching, then you have a right guide to you to lead to emptiness. Hence, you must rely on the accurate commentaries on the Buddha's thoughts. That means, now what you learn here, yes, in order to realize emptiness, you need to study particular teaching, particular text. The teaching you can have two categories. One definite, teach about definite meaning. One teach about the professional meaning. For you, which teach is more important? The definite, the teaching which is explain the definite meaning, which is emptiness. Right? That means you need to rely on the teaching which is explained emptiness. Next, there are, with regard to the prerequisites of the insight, there are three parts. Number one, what's the number one? Professional and definite meaning. Number two, history of commentary on Nagarjuna indeed meaning. Number three, determine the philosophical view of emptiness. Now, you must identify the scriptures, the teaching of professional and definitive meaning. You must recognize which one is the scripture of professional, which one is scripture of definite meaning. The history of commentary on the Nagarjuna intended. Then how to determine the philosophical view? So it is not easy. You think, Harsudara is the scripture of definite meaning. Other teaching is the scripture of the professional teaching. Simple, you can think this way. It's not easy. So therefore, I don't want you to confuse. For example, here, Harsudara. What do you think? Harsudara is a scripture of definite meaning or scripture of the professional meaning? Definite meaning. Okay, definite meaning. Within the Harsudara, when you read, beginning to end, then there's no eyes, no nose, no tongue, no body. Right? There's no tongue. So Buddha said, there's no tongue, no body. Can you take the scripture as a, definite, explain the definite meaning? Explain the definite meaning? Yes, you can. So, before you think this way, here look at next. Page number 113. Right? Within the identifying the scripture of professional and meaning and definite meaning, 113. How does a sutra teach conventionalities so as to be classified as the professional? And how does a sutra teach the ultimate so as to be classified as a definitive? Reply. This also is indicated very clearly in the teaching of the sutra, Asayamati Sutra. It says, Sutra called professional are those that teach as the thoughts they were honor. It's not talking about honor, somebody belongs to somebody. Honor means the person. Where there's a known using variety expression, self, sentient being, living being. Right? Those teaching you can consider as the conventional teaching. Then sutra called definite are those that teach the door of the liberation, which is emptiness, singleness, right? Wirelessness, no composition, no production, no creation, no sentient being, no living being, no person, no owner. That means if there's no person, no owner, no living being, all this teaching considered as a what? Definite meaning. Scripture which is explained definite. That means, simple you just think, some teaching explain emptiness, some teaching explain the basis of emptiness. For example, no nose. This word, say no nose, it explains two things. Two things, right? One, explain the nose. Say nose, then no nose. The nose is the basis of the emptiness of the nose. Okay? Also say no eyes. Eyes is the basis of emptiness of the eyes. That means this just say no nose, it has a two meaning. It may explain the conventional, also explain the ultimate. But most importantly, it explain the emptiness of the nose. Clear? Okay. When you heard from the Heart Sutra, say no nose. Also say, at the beginning say no. Right? Second say no nose. No nose. This means two words. No mean, say, the nose not exists inherently. It explains emptiness. Second say, no nose. Nose is the basis of emptiness of the nose. That means just simple words. Say no nose. It explains two things, which is the conventional truth and ultimate truth. But Buddha very much emphasized the second one, which is ultimate truth. Therefore, the Heart Sutra is the scripture of and definitive explain the definitive meaning. Definitive meaning. This which is emptiness. Okay, then next. So I hope you know the two teaching. The teaching which is explained the definitive meaning, the teaching which is explained the conventional meanings. Here, the definitive meaning, emptiness is synonymous. You can say definitive meaning or emptiness. Okay, it's the same thing. When you say definitive meaning, also is referred to the emptiness. When you say emptiness, it also refers to the definitive meaning. It's exactly synonymous. Yes? Yeah. Let's say, emptiness of nose, emptiness of body. The body the body itself is not the definitive meaning. Not definitive meaning. Definitive meaning. It is explained when you say, the nose itself is what? Second one? Yeah. Convention is a professional meaning. Professional meaning. The body itself, nose itself is the professional meaning, not the definitive meaning. The emptiness of the body, emptiness of the nose is the definitive meaning, not the professional meaning. the provisional meaning, conventional truth are synonymous. Definitive meaning, emptiness, realities are synonymous. Definitive meaning is definite. You can, change the word. Meaning of definitive meaning is same. Why we use the definitive mean? For example, before you knowing something covered, this is book. This is book. After you know this is a book, still you study what's the nature of this book. Then slowly you're going to notice the book is, impermanence. Still you study furthermore, not just book, not just impermanent. You study more, furthermore, study more and more. You analyze more. Finally, what you will know? Oh, the books seem for me is exists. I can see, I can read. But if you really study very precisely, finally you're going to notice the book is not really exists inherently, independently, not really exists from the object side. Then still you study furthermore, then you cannot do any study anymore because you really reach to the final kind of fine nature, right? Therefore, definite meaning. The meaning is the final meaning. This is the final nature. You cannot go further than the emptiness of the book. The book, impermanence and emptiness of the book. The final, when you realize emptiness of the book, then you cannot do any more analytical, analyze. Therefore, definite meaning is definite. That means simply you just think there's two types of teaching. Some teaching, directly explain emptiness. Some teaching directly explain the conventional things, not the ultimate things. In order to realize emptiness, I must study the teaching, I must study the book which is explain the ultimate or emptiness. All this teaching we call the teaching of definitive meaning. Teaching of not conventional, what you call provisional meaning. Provisional meaning, definitive meaning. The teaching teach the definitive meaning, the teaching teach the provisional meaning. That means true truth. That means you must identify about the teaching. You wish to, realize emptiness. If you study the book which is explain the conventional truth, then you cannot realize emptiness. Right? Emptiness. That's why you must identify which book is mainly emphasize our emptiness. For example, Heart Sudara. Heart Sudara. So, I know all of you know the Bodhisattva way of life, right? The Bodhisattva way of life. When you read the chapters, the first chapter explains what? The benefit of bodhicitta. When you read the only first chapter, you're going to understand all the benefits of practice of bodhicitta. You're not going to realize, you're not going to understand emptiness. Second, what? Second is how to, purify the negative karma. Third, explain bodhicitta. Chapter 1, 2, if you study only chapter 1, 2, 3, you're not going to understand emptiness. Because those chapters don't explain directly emptiness. Right? So, if you wish to realize emptiness, rely on the Bodhisattva way of life, the teaching, then you need to study about the wisdom chapter. The wisdom chapter explains very much about emptiness. That means you must identify which teaching emphasize explain emptiness, which teaching is not explain emptiness. Identify. Yes. Okay. Very good question. All the commentaries on the Buddha teaching has many chapters. Each has a different, different chapter has a different meaning. For example, Buddha Shakyamuni explained, teach the Heart Sutra or Prajnana Paramita. All this teaching, but actually at the Buddha lifetime, we must know the story about the teaching. At the Buddha lifetime, he teach the teaching in many different places for the many different disciples. So after he, took into parinirvana, all the monks, all the sangha came together. They collect all the teaching and written down on the paper, written down all the teaching. That time, they put all the teaching into 3 pitika, 3 baskets. What are they? Vinaya, Abhidharma, Sutra. At the Buddha lifetime, he didn't say, today I will give you Abhidharma, tomorrow I will give you, Vinaya, so and so. Buddha giving many types of teaching in different time for different people, and they collect all the teaching, put in 3 baskets. But after he achieved enlightenment, until he give the Prajnana Paramita teaching, all the teaching refer to the teaching which is explained mainly the conventional truth, not the ultimate truth. Then second time when he start to give the Prajnana Paramita teaching in the vulture pig, then all this teaching refer to the teaching explain the definitive meaning. Then is 2 meaning, direct meaning, indirect meaning. Directly, Heart Sutra explain only emptiness. Directly emptiness. The very much emphasis. Indirectly explain all the practices. For example, no eyes. Explain emptiness of the eyes. The nose is not the important kind of content, not important subject. Emptiness of the eye is the most important subject. That means emptiness is the direct meaning. The nose, the body, tongues are the indirect meaning. You can say hidden meaning. Hidden and, indirect meaning. So all the, the perfection teaching, we believe, directly explain emptiness. Only emptiness. That's why it says no nose, no tongue, no body, so and so, right? Then indirectly explain all the practices. For example, 4 Noble Truth, 12 links interdependent, according to Heart Sutra. Yes, commentary, all the commentary on the Buddha teaching has a different chapter has a different meaning. But Buddha teaching is not like the commentaries. It has a direct meaning, indirect meaning, hidden meaning. But all the chapter, they put as a chapter after Buddha, pass away. All the sanghas, all the, arhat come together, then written, they written all the teaching, then they put separately, this is Vinaya, this is Abhidharma, this is the Sutra, this is the chapter, this. At the Buddha lifetime, there's no chapter. Yes, before we go to the history of commentary on Nagarjuna, so can we study a little bit, still page number 114, first, second, third, the 4th and 5th, the 6th paragraph. The first We finish first, second, third, from the fourth. Can you see the fourth paragraph? Crumb, right? Crumbs. Since, before it, so Lama Tsongkhapa explained, the text of definitive meaning, the text of the conventional meanings. Then there's a doubt. Then look at Sin Sutra of the definitive meaning are literal. Literal, right? That means all the texts which is the definitive meaning are literal. According to English term, what does mean literal? Literal mean you can omit. You can just believe directly what the word says, right? That means literal. That means all the texts which is explain the definitive meaning, it must be literal. Then when the statement such as, then there's a doubt. When statements such as a production does not exist and persons does not exist, because some of the Buddha teaching, you can say, production does not exist, person does not exist, is appear in those sutra. One must conclude the productions and persons do not exist at all, right? If all the definitive teachings are literal, that means you have to say the production do not exist, persons do not exist, because you have to accept as the literal meaning, right? I read one more. Since sutras of the definite meanings are literal, when statements such as production does not exist, person does not exist, these words appear in those sutras, right? This means one must conclude. This means we must think, we must conclude the production, the persons does not exist. We have to say person does not exist, production does not exist, because it's literal. Then otherwise those sutra would not be literal, and it would absurdly follow that they are provisional. This means there is a question. Some sutra appear which is production does not exist. It is literal or not literal? It is literal, because it is definitive meaning. If it is literal, then we must conclude production not exists, right? We cannot say production not exists, persons not exist, do not exist. We cannot say productions are exist, persons are exist. We cannot say production does not exist, persons do not exist, right? We cannot. Now how is come? You say on one hand, all the definitive meanings in all the definitive sutra are literal. But on the other hand, you are not saying, production is not exist, production exists. Then look at reply. This does not seem tenable, because there are many definitive sutra in which the Buddha, the teacher who marks the statement at what? At the qualification. What is the qualification? Ultimately. That means the production does not exist ultimately. the person does not exist ultimately. If you add this qualification, then all the statement you can take as a literal, right? Literal. That means simply Tsongkhapa saying all the teaching which is explained, which is introduced, the definite meaning are literal. Even though the word which is says production does not exist, it is literal. It's not saying the production are not exist. It's saying the productions are not exist ultimately. That's why it's a literal. Right? Then Lama Tsongkhapa argue here. When refuting production and so forth, if he add such as a qualification once, then we must add it even where it does not occur, because it is a common attribute of all such as refutation. For example, in the Heart Sutra, at the beginning, what remember? The 5 aggregates. Also, 5 aggregates also empty of inherent existence. At the beginning, right? Empty of inherent existence. So on. Then slowly listen, no nose, no tongue, no body, no nothing. All of you must say, all of them, eyes not exist inherently. Ultimately, eyes not exist, no eyes ultimately. We have to add the qualification to rest of the the sentence. Once more, when refuting production and so forth, if he mean who? Buddha Shakyamuni, Buddha. If he adds such as a qualification once, then we must add it even where it does not occur, because it is a common attribute of all such as refutation. Since the absence of ultimate existence is the reality of phenomena, how could a sutra teaching this not definitive? Then Lama Tsongkhapa asked back question back to the person, how you cannot say, the teaching is not be definitive. It is definitive because it explains the emptiness. Otherwise, if this sutra, which sutra, the production does not exist, person does not exist. If thus this sutra did refute the production in general, since then as far as the particulars, right? When you say, when you refute the production, then you must refute like the table. The production is general. The table is particular. For example, human being is general, right? Then person, male and female are particular. If there's no human being, then there's no person, no male and no female, right? If there's no, production, then there no be particulars. They would also refute the words. If you refute production in general, then you must refute the words. And hence, even the definitive sutra that teach the could not make their presentation, right? This means some sutra, some words is explain emptiness. The single words is the definitive meaning, is explain the definitive meaning is literal. Even the word, the production does not exist, right? Production does not exist. This single sentence is the, text with the definite meaning. The single word which is production does not exist. The single word is literal. You can take as a literal. If you take as a literal, then what you have to say? You have to say production no exists. No. The literal means production does not exist ultimately. This is the literal meaning. Then he said, how come there's no really, there no say, it no says, production, the products do not ultimately exist. There's no word. They directly say product does not exist. Then he said, Lama Tsongkhapa said, he already ate the qualification which is ultimate at the beginning. Then in between, you don't have to add all of them. Right? For example, Mr. A is no good. First we say Mr. A. Second one we say he or she, it, we add all of them. We don't have to say each time Mr. A, Mr. A. Therefore, in the Heart Sutra, aggregates also do not exist. What? Inherently. Then rest of you don't have to say inherently. Then say simple as no, eyes, no, tongue, no. Right? Simple as no. All no refer to ultimately. So this is so important in order to know the text definitive meaning. The text in what you so convince, not ovation, right? Provisional. Then Lama Tsongkhapa says otherwise, if this sutra did refute what? Production in general, then what happened? As far as particular, they would also refute the words. And hence, then how definite sutra they teach the could not mark the presentation. Production no exists in general, then particular no exists, then the word no exists. Then how we can say the teaching is definite and or non-definite. For example, human being, sentient being no exists, then human being no exists. Human being no exists, then male and female no exists. Okay, now we have a little time. We study very shortly, quickly about the history of commentary on Nagarjuna. First parts, we learn it is so important to have the meditative serenity. Second, we learn the meditative serenity must meditate on emptiness. Without meditating emptiness, you cannot overcome from sufferings and samsara. You cannot be free from samsara. Therefore, the serenity, the special insight must meditate on emptiness. Therefore, you must realize emptiness, right? Then we learn how we can realize emptiness, how we can understand emptiness. That means in order to understand, in order to realize emptiness, we need to rely on a teachings. The teaching with teaching. Then all the teaching taught by Buddha, all the teaching taught by other master, we can have two categories. All the teaching you can put into two groups. Some teaching explain directly emptiness. Those teaching we call teaching definite meaning. Some teachings do not explain, introduce emptiness directly. Those teaching we call provisional text teaching, provisional meaning. That means there's a two teaching. Which teaching we must rely on? We must rely on the teaching, the definite meaning. right? Then in continuously all the definite meaning teaching, with all the teaching which is definite meaning are literal. You must, claim what the would say. Then there's an argument. And this is the case. What happened? Some would say production does not exist. Persons does not exist. It is literal or not literal? Literal or not literal? It's a literal. If it is literal, then you must say, production not exists. No. The word actually is saying the production person not exists ultimately. This is the literal. This is the actual meaning. Now, next, now we know, yes, we must rely on the teaching which is explained, emptiness. Now, whom I should rely the master? Now, look at the history of commentary on Nagarjuna's intended meaning. Nagarjuna gave flawless commentary on the scripture. That means there are so many commentary on the, Parajarampara teaching, but Nagarjuna is one of the, master who gave, flawless commentary on the scripture, commentary on the Parajaramparamita teaching like Heart Sutra, the Perfection of Wisdom Sutras. They teach the all phenomena are without any intrinsically existent production, cessation, and so forth. Right? That means we must follow the Nagarjuna teaching, because Nagarjuna gave, flawless commentary on the Wisdom Sutra. That means we must follow the Nagarjuna teaching, because he was one of the most important commentator who commented on the perfection teaching. That means Nagarjuna, right? Production, cessation, and so forth. What is the history of commentary on Nagarjuna's thoughts? So, what's the history? You can say we must rely on Nagarjuna. Both father Nagarjuna and his spiritual son, right, is who Aryadeva. That means Nagarjuna we call father. Aryadeva we call son. But they are not physically, father and son. But, Nagarjuna is one of his teacher. Aryadeva is one of the most important disciple of Nagarjuna. That means Nagarjuna is the teacher. Aryadeva was the most important disciple of Nagarjuna. Both Father Nagarjuna and his spiritual son Aryadeva are source for the other Madhyamaka. Even great Madhyamaka such as the Master Buddha Palida, we received the teaching. Bhavavika, Chandrakirti, Shandi Rakhida took Aryadeva to be authoritative as the Master Nagarjuna. Right? Nagarjuna is the teacher, Aryadeva is the disciple of Nagarjuna. So two are very important Madhyamaka master. Even though the Buddha Palida, Bhavavika, Chandrakirti, Shandi Rakhida, all of, they took Aryadeva to be the authoritative master of Nagarjuna. That means they really respect Aryadeva as a Nagarjuna. That means, because slowly we're going to study the Madhyamaka school. Therefore, earlier Tibetan scholar used the term Madhyamakas of the fundamental text for those two, and terms the presentation Madhyamaka for the others. That means the Nagarjuna's Aryadeva texts are the fundamental, very important texts. In the past, there were some Tibetan teachers who said that Madhyamaka are the described in terms of how they possess conventionality. There are the two types. This means now Nagarjuna is the founder of Madhyamaka. Then most important disciple was Aryadeva. The rest of the Madhyamaka follow after Nagarjuna and Aryadeva. Aryadeva studied from Nagarjuna for many years, as well as Buddha Palita, as well as Bhavavika. Okay, then Bhavavika, Buddha Palita, Chandrakirti, all of them, the main disciple of Nagarjuna. And then there's Nagarjuna. So now within the Madhyamaka, Sukul, there's one point of view from the Tibetan teacher. In the past, so before Lama Tsongkhapa, there were some Tibetan teachers who said that when Madhyamakas are described in terms of how they posit conventionalities, there are two types. This means when we think about the Madhyamakas, proponent, Madhyamaka Sukul, are described in terms of how they posit. Do you know the English term posit? P-O-S-I-T. Posit means how you can really say like that. For example, I said this book color is black. Sonam says this book color is white. There's a two different view. I said black, he said white. So I posit the book is as white. He posit the book is black. Like posit means how they accept, or how can they see, how they look at. Posit conventionality, there are two types. What are they? Sutantika Madhyamaka, who assert the external object exists conventionally. That means there's one Madhyamaka we can name Sutantika Madhyamaka, who assert, who claim that external objects mean like table, everything external object exists what? Conventionally. There's one Madhyamaka, one type of Madhyamaka. Second, Yogacara Madhyamaka, who assert the external object does not exist conventionally. That means within the Madhyamaka, there's two groups. One group say the external object exists conventionally. Other group says external object does not exist conventionally. Okay, this is according to the earlier Tibetan, according to some Tibetan before the Lama Tsongkhapa. There's that kind of view. That means Sutantika Yogacara Madhyamaka. Then also there's a Madhyamika are also two types. When described in terms of how they assert the ultimate, the proponent of rationally established illusion assert this composite of the appearance and emptiness is the ultimate truth. This means, so this page, simple you can think about, simple say, you just simple thing, yeah, according to the ancient, the ancient Tibetan, according to their view, according to their point of view, there are two types of Madhyamaka. What are they? Sutantika Madhyamaka and Yogacara Madhyamaka. What is the differences to two Madhyamaka. The previous Madhyamaka said the external object not exists conventionally. One is exists conventionally. This is the point of view from the ancient Tibetan masters. There's another, you can describe two types of Madhyamaka, how they posit, ultimate truth. So this is just, you just keep your mind not that important. This, section, the history, you can just think about, I wish to know emptiness. How I should know? I must study the text, which is the definite meaning. Then which text I must follow? Which text I must study? You must study the text written by Nagarjuna Aryadeva. Why? Because Nagarjuna is the most important teacher, master, who make a commentary on, the perfection teaching. Then later, Aryadeva is or was the most important disciple of Nagarjuna, which is know all the Nagarjuna thoughts. Then later, Buddha Palita, then whom? Bhava Vika, Chandrakirti, Shandirakita, all of them follow Nagarjuna, even though, many Indian masters follow Nagarjuna. Then Adisha, right? Adisha Tipamkarayan, also he follow Nagarjuna. Then also Lama Tsongkhapa, follow the Madhyamaka school tradition. Mainly he follow Chandrakirti and Nagarjuna. Therefore, in order to know, the formless emptiness, we must study, the teaching, the taught by Nagarjuna, Aryadeva, Buddha Palita. Because, Buddha Palita and Bhava Vika are, both of them, disciple of Nagarjuna. But Buddha Palita fully understood the Nagarjuna thoughts. The Bhava Vika, he understood maybe 70 or 80%, not 100%. That means between two those has a different view. Yes.
Isn't Buddha Palita is not Prasangika but Swatantrika Madhyamika?
No, Buddha Palita, Chandrakirti are Pasangika. Bhava Vika is Sutantika. No Sutantika. Swatantika. Swatantika. You should not mix, Sutantika and Swatantika. I think we can stop here today class. I know, it's not easy to understand because it's totally very new for you. Also, when you translate into English from different language, so many, the words is not, not really familiar with you. So, it's not easy to understand. Also, not for me, not easy to explain in English. But, please continuously you attend, you listen half, you sleep half is okay. So after a few months, then you will get, some important sources from here. It can be very useful when you try to understand emptiness, when you try to reduce the negative thoughts. So therefore, please don't give up in between. May I tell you a very nice story? So in Tibet there was historically very wise person. Very wise person. Then, his neighbor's hood person has a, what do you call this one? Like a lamb, big lamb. First, he asked him to the wise person, can you, help me to clean this one? Can you help me to solve this problem? The wise man said, yes, of course, it's very easy. No worry, I can, remove the lump. I can remove it. He was very happy. Then the person went to his house, to the wise man's house. Then he said, are you sure? Can you remove it? He said, yes, of course I can. It's very easy. Definitely I can remove it. Then, the wise person take out very big sword, big sword. They said, are you sure you can remove? He said, yes, I can. Now he feels so scared. He saw the big sword. Then he said, I don't think I can do. I don't want to do. What should I do? They say, if you don't want to do the operation, you can live with my permission. What? How I can give you permission? You must offer me big piece of butter, and for me, they ask me permission to live. Understand? He said, you must offer me big piece of butter. They ask, get permission to live. If you think it's so difficult to understand, if you want to give up in between, you can bring big piece of butter to me. So, say, Geshe, sorry, I cannot attend. Give me permission to leave. Okay, so we can stop here. Then we can do the dedication prayers. It's a bit early, yes? No homework. You read furthermore.